Day 2 of the Centurion test, and still Team India haven't won a session. We'll digest it, dissect it, and try making sense of it here on cricket.com in this match review with me, Avnish Hegde. It takes 2 to tango yesterday, but it takes 3 for a party. And don't we love the fact that Gokirath is back with us? Nikhil Popar is there as well. And boy, there's so much to talk about. But before anything, let's of course show you how it really stands at stumps on day 2 at Supersport Park, because that 11-run lead could be eked up to 50, potentially 70, 80, 100. You tell us in the comments. But right here, right now, we'll talk about everything. Whoa, Gokirath's chair is making the noise indeed. But we'll tell you everything that you need to know about the day 2, KL Rahul, and how sublime that 101 was. Was it his best test done? We certainly think so. Was it Dean Elgar's best test done? We certainly think so too. So there's lots to chat about in the comments. And let's just, of course, ask the boys how they are after day 2, because the WhatsApp chat, if there's anything to go by, these two are livid with everything going on with the Indian team. Gurkirath, I'll start with you.
Yeah, livid because there's a complete resistance to learn something from the mistakes. If you don't, have the score bar, and if you just watch how India bowled or how India batted, you won't really be able to make a difference if it was the last tour or this tour. Similar mistakes. I wasn't there yesterday, but I feel India went wrong with the playing 11 itself. We saw when Jadeja wasn't there last time, India really could not pull off this combination of having Ashwin and Shardul both. Probably the need was to play an extra batter, but even after that being done, you don't understand why you would start the post lunch break with two bowlers who are not best in terms of control. And the second session, where I think India gave away 140 plus runs, it's a match losing session. Let's be very honest about it. Those runs, sometimes opposition makes you bat 2 sessions to score those many runs. If I'm not wrong, India got similar amount of runs in 2 sessions of batting yesterday. India gave away that in almost 1 session. So it sums up the story. Lack of usage of Ashwin sums it up. Lack of planning in terms of going to short balls very late. All of this we have seen before, in different games. So nothing surprising, apart from the fact that they don't learn anything from their mistakes. So
Nikhil, you put out a tweet as well, and we'll of course share it with the viewers right now, and we'll ask you to speak about it, basically summing up how tactically inept we were, especially in that second session. Like Gurkirath mentioned, 145 runs to concede is a huge amount of runs in any sort of test match. Where do you stand at day 2 at stumps, Nikhil?
Just standing at any place that isn't leaking runs, because it is unpardonable. And I don't mean with any other disrespect for people or players that you cannot have economy rates of over 4 in a test match on this kind of wicket. Um, I can still possibly say that okay, you are learning, but how long will it take for the same batch of people to learn that if you don't have the pace, or if you don't have the height, or if you don't get the bounce, surely there is something that works for you, and surely the management and everybody can come together and define a plan that okay, this is what works for you. You do this, you do this, you do this, you do this. I think that is something that has been completely lacking ever since that last tour of England. Uh, the time we played that one-off test, the two tests in South Africa, it's been the same pattern. We talked about the one word, that is control, and it is effectively coming down to the same bit that if you're going to bowl half volleys and give away boundaries in what first 8 overs after tea, there was a boundary in every one of them. It will not work. You'll not be able to put any kind of pressure, and the disappointing bit is it is the same people and it's the same attack. So barring Bumrah and Siraj's first spell, I think nothing surprises you. And that's what, as Paji also said, it's just the same something that I tweeted, that you are just doing what you think and there is nothing proactive about your planning or options that you are trying, which will not work. So again, I could not stop if I go on that run, but I just feel India are very happy to be where they are, and they just feel something will just happen. It will not happen if you don't do anything about it.
Yeah, even the short ball barrage only came into, of course, effect in that third session, and you wonder why. Sometimes you look at Ben Stokes and how his England team took 20 wickets in roads in Pakistan just by super plans. India lacked that. Gurkirat, before we pick out the day chronologically, I want to ask you a couple of questions. One that you just spoke about in your opening rant, the fact that you weren't happy with the playing 11. So talk to me about that. And two, where does the buck stop, especially in Test match cricket? Because, like you mentioned it right now, it's a theme that we've seen multiple times in the past.
Yeah, the buck has to certainly stop with the captain and the coach, because it's the same set of decision makers who are making the same mistakes. uh, I think at this point of time, maybe Eastern should go up and ask them, what more do I need to do to make it from the 15 to the 11? He anyway makes it to the 15 when someone's injured. And today, so by now you should know that you cannot afford five bowlers in a test match if you don't have Ravindra Jadeja. Either you play, Washington Sundar overseas. He was not in the squad, so you probably thought, okay, we will, even if Jadeja is not there, we'll manage somehow. And there was no Akshar either, who you can make use of if Jadeja is not there in Asia. So in the absence of Jadeja, you needed an extra batter, and the problem is, it's not even about Ashwin's skill. It's about the lack of trust in his skills. He's bowled 8 overs today, and in the first 35 overs he had only bowled 1 over, which was to make the change of ends, or probably 1 over before lunch. So you don't really have the belief that he can pick up wickets. Now my problem is, if you don't believe in the skill of any particular player, why are you selecting them in the 11 or in the 15? And there have been countless examples of this. We don't need to go very far. In the World Cup, we saw Shardul playing in the 11, but he was bowling after Pandya. Even on days when Siraj was spraying it all around, Rohit did not look keen to give the ball to Shardul. We have seen it in home test matches. Even when Jadeja and Ashwin are not getting it right, Akshar doesn't get the ball straight away. We saw it even in the World T20, taking Dinesh Karthik as a finisher but dropping him at the last moment, not having enough faith. Deepak Hooda is another example. You selected him because you thought he could be that bowling option, but he did not bowl in that World T20 or in the lead up to that World T20 in the Asia Cup. Now, you play Tilak, but you don't sort of give him the ball. So the problem is, you are selecting players to play a particular role, but then you're not giving them that opportunity to play in that role. And sometimes you're just picking players because maybe you don't want to hurt egos, without really knowing what the usage is. I think if someone was to ask Rohit or Rahul right now that, how do they see Ashwin playing a role in this test match, or with the ball, I think asking him to bat at number 7 is not being fair to him. But if you were to ask the bowling, anyone in the management, like, what is your plan with Ashwin, I don't think anyone has a answer. Or even if you get answers, you will get different answers, because there is no concrete plan, especially with regards to the usage of a spinner in these conditions. So it's disappointing, but nothing surprising.
Nikhil, where do you stand on Rohit Sharma, the Test captain? Because look, I mean, we've seen how well documented it is in terms of his IPL success, but sometimes does he let the game drift? Does he lack the spark? We, of course, obviously compare him to Virat Kohli, who is vociferous, who, of course, grabbed the scruff of the neck sometimes. How do you judge him so far?
See, I think with Rohit, I don't think it's ever been that evident. And about, so let's look at it this way. With MS, you always felt, okay, if spinners are in the game, then MS will find a way out. It may or may not work. You can see him trying things out. With Virat, you saw that happen with Pacers. That okay, you know, uh, pace is there. Virat will bring on pace. He'll try and have something that works for them, even if it's raw aggression. See, whatever works, it's your responsibility as a captain to know what works for which set of bowlers and options. Now, Virat doesn't have to go and pump up Bumrah; he'll do it by himself. But maybe he has to do that with Siraj. But with Rohit, I don't think you can see something very clear that okay, this is where Rohit is at his best. In all of his captaincy duration, I may not be watching as much as others may have in terms of Rohit Sharma fans or whoever who will come after this. That I don't see anything that tells you that this is where Rohit is at his best in terms of captaincy in the white ball format or in the test format. I feel when things are going to plan and you want to execute things, Rohit is at his best there. But I don't see India trying things out. And again, it is not just down to Rohit. It's down to the change of management in terms of the bowling coach, the head coach as well. I think it's not just the responsibility of the captain, it is the unit together that what are they planning? Because like with Rohit, whenever he won with at MI as well, you could see and sense that there is a very strong setup that is helping him execute all of these plans. And when it happens, it always looks great. But I think it's times like these where you want to see that captaincy instinct that can you do an 8-1 field? Or can you go ask your bowler to go around the wicket and bowl short? Or can you why would you not have Ashwin bowling earlier? I think India are just very stuck at trying to do their things that they know and they just don't want to move away from it. Now, whether that's a call that Rohit is taking, whether that's a call that Parasamre, Rahul Dravid, and Rohit, all of them have taken in unison, because sometimes I feel there is a lot more accountability from the batters, but there is very little of it from the bowlers. Now, why is that the case? Why should a bowler be told, okay, bowl here, bowl there? Do we go and tell Virat ke bhai off stump ke baar mat khel, or do we tell Gill ke bhai be careful with Indipar? It's obvious. So I think sometimes I just feel with the bowlers are given far more leeway in terms of you can bowl without control. It's okay, conditions are tough, but then that's what it is. If you are expecting batters to grind out when conditions are tougher, the bowling has to find a way to keep itself relevant when things are not in hand, and that's where everybody comes in the picture. Rohit, the captain, the coach, the bowling coach. So with Rohit as a captain, I think it's not as obvious to me. It may be obvious to others. So I would love to know that. But I just feel as an entire group, they have let themselves down with their own expectations also.
Gurkirat, just coming to you here about how Dhoni was kind of often compared as a test captain. People would say he'd let the game drift. Rohit as well. Many people on Twitter today and Instagram seeing various comments that he's timid and he's more reactive than being kind of more pro into it. How do you kind of assess him as captain really quickly in test match and that scheme of things?
Adding on to from what Nikhil said, I don't think this has been a test match problem. I think it's been an issue across formats. There were times even when he was MI's captain where you felt he made mistakes, but he got away because of the quality of players that he had. The 2019 final, the IPL final that you talk about. Now, in those situations when you had Krunal, Bumrah, and Malinga to bowl, most captains will probably bowl Krunal the last over and would look to close the game out first with Bumrah and Malinga. But Rohit went the other way around. He bowled Krunal. Krunal was hit for three sixes, but such was the quality of the other two batters, and maybe you could say Watson's injury or etc. Shardul's brain fade that MI still found a way from there. So some mistakes have been quite obvious. They've never been highlighted because you won the game. Uh, a classic example of this is people always saying, even cricket experts or former experts saying, Rohit's a very calm and collective individual as a captain. But he never was. He was always expressive. And there's no harm in being inexpressive because that is how individuals are. So, uh, with regards to Dhoni, yes, there were times in overseas test matches you felt that, Dhoni was just looking to sort of make sure that the runs don't flow. And you could also say that he had only one bowler who he could rely on, which was Ishant Sharma, and then maybe Ashwin, especially overseas. But with this team, you can't really say, okay, that this is I think Siraj's fifth away tour. You've had Shami for pretty much for quite long. Shardul's now been a consistent feature of the 11, so you expect some planning. The problem is you see a lack of planning. You see a lack of timidness in terms of decision making. I mean, even if you were to bat Abhimanyu Iswaran at 7, how worse it could have been than Ashwin coming out at 7, especially when you're not going to use his bowling. I I cannot think how it would have been worse because he would have definitely.
But like you said to that own point, they don't trust Ranji players anymore, do they?
That is the problem. Again, if you're not going to trust those players or you're not going to give them chances, then how are you going to, find people who can do the job? So there is that, and yeah, it's been how do I've in between the rant, I've forgotten something that I wanted to add. I'll come to it later.
We'll come to that. We'll come to a lot more because this match review has barely started. Remember, guys, we have to show you some pitch maps, some wagon wheels. We'll talk about KL Rahul. We'll talk about Dean Elgar. And yes, neural hacks. Yes, we will also speak about KL Rahul. So we'll start chronologically, and where better else to start than KL, because India were 208 for 8, boys. And everyone thinking 250 maybe. We got really close thanks to KL Rahul and that 101. And guys, I mean, what a 2023 he's had. Every role he's been able to tick it, and every sort of particular duty he's just been able to pass it with flying colors. So Nick, I'll start with you here because you called it even prior to the test that KL Rahul will be a top run scorer and all of that, but even this innings would have pleased you.
Oh, 100%. I think this is the best test knock that is played till date, without even a shadow of a doubt, because it's come in tougher conditions. Half of it with lesser batters at the other end. Once he didn't have the support of once you had the top order going away. So I think it is something we talked about in detail yesterday as well, that he has all of this in him. The skills have always been there. Now it's about him ensuring that he does not let up, because again we've all talked a lot about the potential that he has and the options that he has at his repertoire. The six that he hit, both before getting into the 90s and then for the century, all of it you can't just do like that. You have to have things going your way, and the pitch was still doing a lot when he was batting out there. So I think he'll also rate it highly, but it's about now building on this and then continuing to go from strength to strength, because India will require uh, this kind of batting where they are proactive and not just waiting for things to happen like they have been with the ball. I think that is the one thing that I think stands out really about this knock. It's the strike rate at which he scored those runs. And you can look at Dean Elgar's strike rate and David Beddingham's strike rate, but they all came when the pitch was still far better to bat on as compared to what was there yesterday. So I think in tougher conditions, KL was able to just bat at a very good rate. He did play and miss. That's part of the test game. But I think he'll be delighted. But I'm sure he'll be kicking himself that they'll feel that, okay, they missed out on more runs given the way the match has panned out so far.
Indeed, lots more praise going on, Rahul. I just want to get Gurkirat's thoughts on it as well. Just before I get Gurkirat's thoughts on it, Ashutosh Bajpai quickly saying another Rahul going from an opening to a middle order to all formats doing well. And is it time to give captaincy to KL and recognize the team? Let's just not jump the gun right now. But Gurkirat, what did you make of that particular knock of KL Rahul? Was it just the fact that he saw the ball like a football? Sorry for the cliche, but it's true.
No, it's easily his best test innings, and even in his career, you could say among the best that he's batted. Uh, I thought batting with the last four maybe gave him a little more clarity. Maybe if he was batting with a batter or someone in the top five, he might have approached it differently. But you still can't take away. I mean, the shot that he hit of Rabada, which was over third man, it's not easy to play. The ball wasn't even that wide. It could have very easily taken the edge and gone to the keeper, but to execute it that well, it takes. And given how much bounce yesterday was on the pitch, and with the South African bowlers extracting that, it wasn't easy to hit on the up as well, because you never knew which ball could bounce that little extra and take your edge. So to pick up that right delivery, to go for those lofted shots, is something was something very, very special. It could go for a four, it could go for a six, that is secondary, but just to be able to pick that right delivery on that length is something that stood out for me. And the point that I'd forgotten, which I remembered, was when Nikhil mentioned Edingham. I mean, there were two sixes that he hit of short deliveries, and he was so comfortable with it. And those short deliveries were also bowled at what pace? I think one was 128, and the other was 130. And he looked so comfortable in that. So it also told you that probably India did not do their homework on the debutant as well. For that, you cannot probably blame this management, because I think that's Indian cricket heritage. The debutant more or less will do better against you. From all the cricket that I have seen, there's only been one instance where the debutant did not do well against India, and India went on to win that series, which was Cameron Green in the Porter Gasker 2021. That's pretty much about it. Apart from that, the debutant has done well, especially on an away tour, and that debutant has been one of the pillars of success for the opposition team.
Indeed, more on those debutants in David Bedingham and his performance in just a bit. But KL Rahul, what or not, let us know in the comment and how you really rated KL Rahul this year, let alone this test match, because he's really, really silenced his critics. No puns over there. So India getting to 245 nicks, and then you thought that early breakthroughs would be crucial. They got one in terms of Markram, and everything was decent up till lunch. Then can you explain why Rohit has gone and started the second session with Shardul and Prasid? Is it because Shardul and South African recency bias at 761 just coming into Rohit's mind, the wobble seam and all of that? And with Prasid at the other end, not to kind of let the confidence already shatter in a boy who's making his debut. So I'm trying to just defend Rohit, by the way, but can you explain why Rohit didn't go for Bumrah and Siraj, his two best assets, right after lunch?
No, I don't think you can find a way to justify that from both ends. One end, as you said, 110, one end you can still be reasonable and give the benefit of doubt that okay, Sadul had just started his spell, and okay, you wanted him to continue from that end, fair. But the other end, it just had to be a guy who is going to be able to bowl with control and put pressure. I think India, again, as I said, it just circles down to the same thing, that it's very textbook. That this is what we will do, this is what we'll follow, no matter what happens. But it's not helping the side. You talk about the seven for they showed a replay of it as well. It was a length that I don't think India hit enough. They were full, they beat the bat, but they never bowled back enough for them, for the batters to have any doubt in their mind that how much will the ball, bounce or not bounce. You saw that happen with Jaiswal as well, where they bowled short, but the first ball they bowled full to him, he got out. So I don't think India mixed it up well. They may have drawn more false shots, but that's because of the way in which Elgar plays and how Tony Dizorzi plays. That they play inside the line, so they are more than happy to get beaten, and they don't care if you have 100 plays and misses, as long as they are getting that odd half volley to keep driving. I think India just stuck to their plan far too much in terms of let's get them driving, but they are driving now. You have to just hold it back a bit more, and I'm surprised nobody was able to tell them or do that, because this is not the first time it's happening. It happened in England. It happened in South Africa itself on the last two, where you could see Dean Elgar come. I don't remember the last time Dean Elgar was so confident on the front foot, driving the ball on almost on the up at times. So yes, the pitch may have gotten better to bat on, but then that's where your planning comes into the picture, right? That if this is something Stain also said in the preview of the game, that in South Africa you have to hit different lengths every single day. On one day it will be spongy bounce, you have to bowl differently. Other day the pitch may quick enough, you'll have to bowl differently. That homework, that reading of conditions has to be there, and you have to account for. I'm happy to account for lack of execution. Okay, chalo, you missed out on executing things in Eva. But I don't think India had the plans in place to then give them the benefit of doubt. Oh, you will not be able to execute well. So I think just beating the bat is not enough. It's been the story for since I don't know how many years now in away test. And if repeatedly your new ball bowling attack or your second, third bowling attack is unable to create chances, there has to be more asked of the management as well, that what is it that is that you're trying but you're not able to execute, if that is the reason. Because if you have plans, something is going wrong somewhere.
Gurkirat?
Yeah, another bit is last tour India conceded so many runs through the third man region, and that the third man wasn't there, whether it was Virat captaining or whether it was KL captaining. The third man wasn't there today.
Nick's mentioned this yesterday, saying 1,300 runs odd in the third man region, obviously sarcastically. But it's just honestly a trend that people don't pick up. And sometimes it really puzzles you. I mean, we're sitting here at fans watching it from
And
the
you know
living
what?
room.
You know what?
How the
I
hell
would
have
have
they not seen
understood.
that? Yeah.
I would have understood if India had a gully in place. With probably bowlers getting that extra bounce, but Indian bowlers did not get that extra bounce, and that was the differentiator last time around. And I don't think that was also another reading, because if you are if you are consistently bowling full, trying to get that edge, it means that either you don't think your bowlers are good enough to get that extra bounce to induce that mistake, or you've not thought of it. So if you're not anyway bowling that 4 to 5 meter length from where you can generate that extra bounce to, get edges that go square rather than get finer, then you might as well have a third man. That okay, if the edge evades the slip fielders, at least you don't concede runs. But did not
Yeah,
happen.
it's just protection, really, right? I mean, we'll delve into that in just a bit. And of course, some of the comments which has been coming through, some cracking comments as well from Pranjal, Kushal, Santosh, Aritam. And yeah, we'll answer some of these questions because even we were kind of raising the similar questions in the WhatsApp group as well. So stick around for that in just a bit. But we have to, of course, talk about a man who's playing his final series, Dean Elgar. There's something about what we've seen so far this winter, David Warner doing it in the Southern Hemisphere, Dean Elgar doing it in the Southern Hemisphere, similar celebrations, Southpaws, and all of that. But Nick's talked to me about Dean Elgar and why he literally looked like cut from a different cloth. This 140 not out, how much more can he add? Because he's already got a 160, I think, against India and Vizag.
Yeah, India will hope he gets out first, second ball tomorrow. But that's purely from an Indian POV. Uh, South Africa will want him to bat deep and probably just bat as much as he can, maybe entire day if he can. But you look at that wagon wheel, you feel where hasn't he not? Where has he not scored? I mean, he's driven nicely. He's cut well. He's pulled very, very authoritatively, and that is something that you look out for. The way when Prasid came on, he bowled a short one. He was very emphatic and authoritative that I'm not going to allow you to bowl where you want to, and that is just very, very, I think, proactive batting. Many times we see people waiting for the bad balls. Dean Elgar made them bowl a lot more bad balls, and of course it helped that post lunch when he'd also be expecting Bumrah and Siraj, maybe I'll just get myself in. That okay, till the drinks break, they may have a spell each. I'm trying to get myself. That didn't happen. He saw India trying out Shardul and Prasid, and he was more than happy to just play the best percentage shot. I mean, I don't even think he took risk. It was just playing to the merit of it, and he got enough dry balls. He was more than happy to put them all away, and he batted a very good clip. So it always meant that whatever India were trying to do, he never allowed them or gave them enough time. Okay, something is always happening. The runs are always coming, so you can't then plan because, and it is also where I feel India are very strange that they don't even use Ashwin to hold an end. If you are saying, okay, Ashwin ko help me milegi, but then at least use him to hold an end. I mean, that's what I wanted. You wanted to play Ashwin in the WTC because he'll give you better control. Now you played him, but you're not even going to use him. So I think everything just played its part perfectly for Dean to just bat at the rate at he wants. And again, that strike rate is not something that you see very often with Dean. I don't know how many of us will ever recall him playing at that strike rate. So it just tells you how much buffet he was suffered. He was served. Sorry, not suffered. We were the ones suffering. But I mean, credit to him. I think he was very, very productive, and he got the due credit for it at every point of time, right from the first over till the end. He was happy to get beaten, but be there, he was more than happy to come out and drive. So I think very well done to him. And yeah, get out early next tomorrow. Who knows?
Gurkiran
Yeah,
on
on that
Elgar,
on
is
that
he?
Ashwin bit,
Go on.
on that
Go on.
Ashwin bit, he still offered you more control than your third and fourth seamers. Probably even the second seamer later in the day, and it was the case even in the last tour. His economy was still under three last time around, though he did not bowl much. So, yeah, I mean, if control is what you're looking at, or you just want to dry up runs, could have even given him the ball. But I don't think the idea was to even dry up the runs
Yeah.
at any point of time.
Gurkiran, my question to you is Dean Elgar. We saw him come to the fore even in the previous series that they won 2-1, and he was a strong point there. Obviously, he's got to play this series like it's the last of his life, which it is. So he's going to be even better. Hasn't India done any homework figuring out his flaws, his chinks in the Dean Elgar's armor?
No, they haven't. And you don't
What
have
is it?
to.
What is it?
You don't have to be specific with regards to Dean Elgar. They've they've been found short. They've been found wanting in terms of doing their homework, regardless of format, opposition, conditions. So yeah, it's been a theme. It's been a theme, you could say, from the beginning of last year.
And it's really surprising, right? Because
Okay, one other thing that I'm not sure if we have the wagon meat for it. Indian batters are forced to play a lot more square of the wicket. than what South African batters did. I think the amount of times the Indian bowlers were driven on this pitch, it just summed up. It just summed up everything. Indian batters had to play a lot more square of the wicket. There weren't as many driving opportunities for Indian batters, but South African batters had a lot of driving opportunities. So which is, and they could drive with fair amount of control. So that also sums up how the lengths and scoring opportunities were. Indian batters rarely had to dig deep and look for options square of the wicket. I think if we were to pull out KL's wagon wheel, I'm just opening the app, we'll probably see 60 to 70. Yeah, okay, here it is. So as you can see, uh, just put it on. 17, 21, that's 38, 22, 60, and then 26. That's 86 runs out of 101, which have been scored square of the wicket. And I think if we pull out Elgar's wagon wheel, it would be different. So you'd see far lesser in terms of percentages. And even the ones that are in the area between point and mid off, they're still straighter as compared to being squarer.
Yeah, I mean, it just makes you think about this pitch as well, because we know South Africa, even on day 4, day 5, it doesn't really turn as much. It'll probably be more uneven bounce, so the pacers will come in there, and let's see how it really trickles forward. Guys, there's so many questions to take, and I just want to ask you what's going to happen on the moving day, which is day 3, and how will this game meander, Nikhil? Because if India really have to pull things back, given the fact that Bavuma is not going to participate in the test match anymore, they're virtually pretty much 6 down South Africa with leading by 11 runs. A, how much do you think South Africa will get? And B, what do you think? Okay, let me ask you in a different way, right? If South Africa get about 80 runs as a lead, do you think it's game, set, match India? We've done.
No, I think it still gives you something to play around with, because I think conditions have visibly look far better to bat as compared to yesterday. So if you say in the next 80 runs they take the next 5 wickets, India have a slight chance. And that slight chance has to be made massively by batting for the entire day 3 and day 4. There is no two ways about it. You have to bat that long, because only then will you be able to cover up and then still have something to pose a challenge. Because at this point of time, see, I don't think India, again, I don't want to be harsh, but I don't think India have the guts to declare with 250 saying, okay, we'll defend 250. They haven't done that. So they will want that extra cushion कि अब हमको 300 चाहिए. So for you to score, to have a target of 250 plus or 300 and the 80 run lead, you have to score 400, which I don't think will be easy at all by any stretch of imagination. So India's best chance is to wrap them up in the first session tomorrow, possibly with a lead of 50-60, and you cannot afford the tail to wag tomorrow. I mean, there is no way on earth that you can have Jansen, Koji, Rabada to everybody hitting 4-5 boundaries for fun. वो नहीं हो सकता. You do that, then you bat 2 sessions, and then you see where you are. Because at this point of time, it's too far for India to look in terms of how they can win. At this point of time, they have to stay in the game. And the best way to stay in the game is to concede a minimal lead, possibly 50-60, max 80-90. उससे ज़्यादा गया तो it is going to take, you'll have to bat out of your skill to even have a chance of, say, being there. Because you assume they get to 90, that is first session done. And then for India to cover up, it is another session done. So then you'll have to really be very, very good to play out an entire day and a half and then have a go at them. So it doesn't look easy, but test matches away are not easy.
Gurkirat, how do you see a miracle happening from India from here, if there is?
Yeah, I'm not very
Optimistic.
hopeful of a miracle. Nikhil mentioned that they may not be confident of defending 250 with the way they have bowled. I am not confident even if they had to defend 300, because what we have seen is pitches have some in South Africa and maybe even in England, we have seen pitches have become easier to bat as the game has progressed, which did not used to be the case earlier. And if India are able to bat 4 to 5 sessions, that means that pitch would have eased up to
Easy.
some extent, which means your bowlers will also have to work hard to get
Harder.
those 10 wickets. So yeah, the first would be to try and bowl out South Africa by lunch. If that doesn't happen, then you'll be behind in the game, and
Yeah,
then you cannot afford your best opener, or in terms of Rohit, throwing it away by playing a pull, or in any other fashion. So you need runs from everyone, and you need difficult runs for everyone. So it's going to be difficult, but let's see what's in store. Because yeah, you can't expect KL to do the same what he did. You'll need
yeah,
others to stand up from somewhere, and yeah, maybe this is the time. If India want to stretch South Africa, maybe Ashwin and Shardul both need to be at their best with the bat when India come out to bat.
yeah,
Let's see how that goes, guys, because it really, really makes you think about how India have really tactically fucked up in the second session. Pardon my French, but you know it's true. And it makes you think about some of the comments, because some really, really good questions coming through. Why pitch got flattened out? Not flattened out. I think South Africa did make it look really good out there with poor bowling from India as well. I think they did get the luck of the green, even though it was a chanceless innings from Elgar. The only chance I remember India creating from Elgar was probably that catch that KL could have gone for in hindsight, but then of course we're asking too much from him anyway. Just a couple of rapid fire questions I want to ask these boys right now. I'll start with Ahmed the Gooner. Question for Nix: have our test bowling plans gone for a toss since B. Arun retired? It is probably the sixth occasion where we've looked clueless overseas post Marmbre taking the reins, and it's a similar question that Aditam Dar has for you boys. So Nix, you can start about Bharat Arun and the lack of him, should we say?
I think I tweeted this as well, that I don't think one person that you should be dependent on one person so much that you don't do your homework. So because Bharat Arun said the same thing about just looking to get the best out of people, backing them to do what they do best, and then fine tuning their skills to get the best out of them. So then my point is, if you have worked with him for whatever little time, how have you not taken your inputs, or is it only the bowling coach who is accountable for working for you and you yourself are not? So I think it is where I expect probably more ownership in terms of from the bowling as well, and for current bowling setup and when they go. I gave up when Travis said did not get a short ball till he was on 90 in the WTC final. So my expectations have been negative for a while, and for a reason. So I don't expect much. And we discussed the same thing in the before the final as well. That Head shouldn't be the guy who scores. The Head did, and yesterday as well, third man should be there, and you can't afford to have Elgar playing deep and bowling on his terms, looking to get him out that way. It did not work last time also. You'll keep beating his bat, but you're not hitting the stumps enough, or you're not creating enough chances with other options. So I mean, it's all there for people to just take up and look into it.
Okay, Paji, one coming your way here in terms of Pranav Anand. Comms on air was saying India learned from South Africa's mistake in bowled Fuller in the first hour. How do you see it?
I don't think it can be said that, because pitch was behaving differently. South Africa has those bowlers whose strengths aren't anyway to bowl as full. If you just look at the lengths which got them the wickets, if you look at the lengths that Rabada bowled, they were not exactly fuller. They were in that 4 to 5
In between.
meter range, and that is where Rabada has troubled India. Not just in this innings. You look back at the last tour. You look back at the 2018 tour. So I don't think that's a fair assessment. And if anything, you again, if you look at where India got those boundaries, it was when South Africa bowled fuller. Probably apart from Jaswal, maybe you can't say that any other batter got out to a full delivery. Uh, Probably you could say maybe they could have uh, maybe been a meter full. That's about it on occasions, but I don't think the pitch was exactly the same to say that okay, India learned from those mistakes. And if anything, you know India might have learned from their the mistakes of South African bowlers, but they surely did not learn from their own mistakes, because those full lengths were getting driven for boundaries, and they were not really creating as many chances as you would have liked. Because after a point of time, that you know both the batters are settled, and you're not going to get anything. You're not going to generate that extra bounce. And uh, there was I was surprised with the lack of seam movement as well, because usually you would expect the Indian bowlers to get more seam movement given the conditions that they play at home. But for them to struggle to get that seam movement was also a little surprising for me. Swing I can understand because it's more dependent on the air, but seam movement you would think that they should be able to generate, because that dismissal or the fourth wicket of Edingham, I thought Siraj got the ball to really move a lot from the pitch, but you did not
But
see that.
do you think he's probably the only one who's actually hitting the seam, hitting the deck? I don't see Shardul hitting the deck much. You Prasid,
Could be the
the
case.
the
Could be the
least talked
case.
about in terms of control and what you wanted to bowl. Even in his first spell, I felt, why are you bowling full when your advantage is the height? I felt India's go-to plan was happy to be on the full side. I personally felt they should have been happy to bowl on the good length. And then it's okay if you are on the fuller side. Because what it does, it still gives you room to not get driven completely, but you could also create, as you said, get the seam movement. और अगर full पे swing भी हो जाता है, there's still some more chance for you. I think they were just far too full for them to get any seam movement also. And I don't think they hit the pitch enough for them to extract anything out of it. Which is only Shardul and Siraj and Bumrah are the only two options that come to your mind in terms of getting movement off the deck.
Yeah, I think this is fair. Maybe because if you're full enough, then also you're not going to leave a lot of time for the ball to move.
Yeah,
You're allowing the batter to just get to the pitch of the ball. That is one,
yeah,
and probably I did not even hit the surface hard enough. And I think for that we can only say that if we get to know the exact data, that how
yeah,
much pace was lost after the ball
yeah.
pitched.
After bounce,
From your
yeah,
eyes, you can say that Indian bowlers definitely lost more pace than what South African pacers did. And yeah, that should not come as a surprise with Berger, Koji, and
yeah,
Rabada being there, and India having Bumrah and Siraj and other Shardul. You don't expect a lot of pace, and
yeah,
Prasid again with that level of control. I don't think you can anyway
yeah.
analyze much.
Okay. BMK saying, have you observed any change in Shah's bowling? I don't think he's improved his bowling in the past few years. He's not added any variety to his arsenal. I know none for 57 today, 12 overs doesn't do his case a world of good, Nicks. But can you just put a finger on why Shardul was not off color? Because he normally has a knack of breaking partnerships, but today just wasn't his best day in the office.
I just felt Shardul still beat the bat enough. I felt, but the problem with him and again Prasid is the control. That you want them with no pace, you really cannot give them any width or be off your targets. I think that is something that is plagued both Shardul and Prasid in every format that they play, where you just feel that he can bowl. Like I remember one over where he had beat the bat three times, and then he bowled one very wide, and Dean Elgar was happy to tuck hit him cover driven for a four, and then just releases all the pressure that any time that could have developed. So I think I don't know whether you have to add a variety. For me, the prerequisite is control. You get control, variety, and everything will come later because then you have the batter on the where you want to, and then you can use your variety to get him out. At this point of time, if the control is lacking, तो variety का क्या ही करेंगे सर तो और ही बाहर चला जाएगा.
Yeah. Pratham, I'm also going to say, why was Ashwin playing if he ain't going to bowl? We discussed this, and yeah, I know you're being sarcastic right now, but it's quite ridiculous. If he can do the containing job, and he did pretty well in that 6 overs that he bowled. Should India have taken Unatkar and Shami was out when he's someone who gets bounced and can control one end? Look, in hindsight, it's easy to take these calls, but I think they were adamant to take Prasid. I know Avesh is
See,
playing the India A game as well. Yeah, go on
yeah,
next.
see, again, all of us wanted Prasid to play purely from the point of view of the same thing that we've discussed today, hitting the deck, getting more bounce. But for that,
Yeah.
you have to hit the deck and you have to have control. So the thing where that you can talk about Unadkat, Mukesh, and everybody else is this is where India missed Ishant Sharma again. Having a guy who can bowl dry is something that's very underrated. And we're all lost on pace and hit the deck, but you need control from one end at all point of time so that it's not Bumrah and Inshallah. So I think even if you take Jaydev Unadkat from the point of view that bounce and all, at least he'll be able to hold an end, and that's what he's done for donkey's years in your setup. But you don't touch the setup any which ways. So yeah, क्या ही करेंगे उसका?
Guys, we've mentioned the word control quite a bit for the Pacers, and I know that's, of course, integral in Test cricket. But Kukirat, what about someone like a workhorse in India? Do you think we lack someone like that in our bowling arsenal? I'm talking about someone like a Wagner who can just bend their back and try on all the top plans, or do you think we should try to make someone like a Wagner, if you know what I mean?
If you want to make someone into a Wagner, then you'll need to have a lot of patience. And the problem is with the desperation to win trophies and the WTC. I think the patience aspect in terms of developing players is completely gone out of the window. That is one. The other is you had that workhorse in Ishant Sharma. He had a dip in pace, probably had fitness issues or whatever, and then you decide to move on. And the move on happened with the previous management. Surprising bit is that this management has not considered that, and I don't think Ishant has also bowled enough, because even before playing for Delhi in this IPL, he had not really played a lot of first class cricket. He was only playing List A and T20 cricket. So maybe there is some other issue in terms of his fitness. If he's not fit, then you can't do much about it. Then you really need to look at someone. Maybe you ask Shardul that okay, you have to do this, or maybe you pick up one bowler and ask them to do that role. I think from what they saw of Nadkat in that one test, or was it two test matches in West Indies, I'm not sure. They felt that this is probably not going to work for us, and then they moved on from him. Uh, and then there have been other factors, like with COVID, there have been lack of A tours and a lot of matches not happening, due to which they just want to go to the bowlers who they have seen and feel confident enough in and want to back them. It's become that simple. It's not just bowler; it's also with the batters.
Yeah, speaking of the batters, Pranjal Revankar asking us a question. I know I've shot way over time. My producer will kill me right now, but day two, there's too much to talk about. And of course, taking your questions. So we'll keep the last 3, 4 questions really quick, boys, and we'll wrap up proceedings. Pranjal saying experience in batting is what lacks in the squad. A lot of considerable newbies to test somewhat downplayed. Don't you think missing another experienced batter in the squad turned out to be the flaw? Now, I know Somesh also kind of spoke about this in the WhatsApp chat, that why didn't we take a punt on Rahane? Because I know you suggested Eastwaran at the top. But again, all newbies. Nix, where do you stand in this? Because then we're going to be hypocrites in a way if we say youngsters ko chance though, but then we need some experience as well.
No, I don't want anybody who's played in the past to come back again, because you're not moving on at all. You again take a punt on Rane, he does well, then you feel आगे फिर इंग्लैंड खिलाना पड़ेगा, फिर इंग्लैंड खिलाएंगे तो बोलेंगे यार इंग्लैंड में अच्छा किया तो अभी नेक्स्ट टूर पे लेके चले. So that way you're never giving other guys any opportunities to grow in the role that they have to do. I mean, the time that Shreyas spent is invaluable to him. The time that Jaiswal spent is invaluable to him. If you keep going back to the same people, how will the next batch of people learn their job? And it is something that is troubling you in the bowling department as well. That you have a guy who's on his fifth tour, yet you are looking for somebody else for control. You have Shardul playing his second tour, yet it isn't happening for him in terms of finding the right lines and length. So you have to give them more time. So yes, we have to be patient, but you have to get ahead of the system. I mean, you again going picking an Ashwin instead of Ashwin, as Padi said. The problem here is the squad selection also. You could have simply kept Jadeja fresh for these test matches. तुमको क्या जरूरत है उसको T20 खिलाने की? That too at a time where it would make zero sense before an important test tour. So again, a lot of this has to be a long-term call in terms of who do we want as a, again, we'll go back to the point about separate pools. You want a hit the deck bowler, you want a Neil Wagner, have a separate pool. You want a lower order batter, have a separate pool. Push people there, send them on A tours, and then get them to play. Iswaran, Rohan Kunamal, they're all scoring runs everywhere. But how does it matter if you're never going to back then? And if you, as Padi said, eventually everybody's in the same pool, and you're saying, okay, ye wala nahi chala, let's take the same guy from the same pool. It's not helping you move on. So uh, another batter would have helped if Ashwin was not going to bowl, but that batter has to be young because you have to move on. That transition is not going to happen otherwise. Oh, nice. Thank you for the ritual.
The ritual has to be
I,
mentioned.
I caught caught yesterday's episode as well. I know you did it early on in the episode.
Because we missed you, so I had to, of course, live up to the billing. More questions to come through, and we really, really appreciate it. Give this video a quick like, of course, because I know India have been dismal, and if you think they were really tactically clueless in that second session, especially, please hit the thumbs up and subscribe if you guys are new. South Africa would have gotten more out of the surface today. You'd think the same thing happened in the 2021 tour. It felt similar to that. Yes, we agree with you, saying Gurkirat. Rohan Patil saying, who do you see the next coach after Dravid? That's a show altogether, which we'll talk about
VVS,
indeed.
VVS, VVS. That's how the line is going.
It's going in batting order at times, I feel.
Yeah.
Santosh Udupa, yeah, I agree with you. Damage control could have been the situation, but look, Siraj did have the last laugh at least of getting that Bellingham wicket. I know Prasidh also got a wicket on his debut, getting Viran out. Viran, yeah, sorry. Me being a United fan, it comes out. Shardul and Gill have scored almost the same runs in the last 4 tests. What is Gill doing? Is he on thin ice? The question and the heat for Gill, Ashutosh, I think, will be when Pant is back in the scheme of things. And if he does still average 30, being the next superstar of Indian cricket, that's the real talking point there. Even Aditya saying something ridiculous. I don't know if you're going by recency bias, even though Abdullah Shafiq today did dazzle in the MCG. And more comments, man. This is such a good particular review. I just don't know where to stop because Santa
I
Cruz is
agree.
going to say this. Go on. Go
Yeah, I
on,
mean,
next.
South Africa only play 2 tests every series, so you're definitely missing out on
Yeah.
probably one of the best bowlers, red ball bowlers that we've seen.
Indeed. Is Shardul's bowling luck over his first set match, 24 wickets, last 4 matches, 6 wickets? I mean, you can't really just pin it on luck, can you? Because it makes you think about how test match cricket is the pinnacle for all these cricketers. And lots of people going crazy about Shardul. Don't you think Umesh should have been the part of the squad in the absence of Shami in South African conditions where experience counts? In hindsight, it's easy. I would have taken Ishant Sharma, like Nick said, because you need someone like him who hits the surface, it's up and down, so on and so forth. Exciting news on the way. Stay tuned till the end. Yes, we will tell you about that indeed. And when is Sandeep Raju coming to the MNL? Lots more guests are planned up in the MNL show. Obviously, holiday season, so everyone's kind of busy right now. Indeed. More questions, more comments. First, Gujarat. Ishan broke down the Ranji Trophy last
Yeah.
year and is focused mostly on white ball since then. And bro, can you stop this today as much as tomorrow? Will South Africa will lead by 115, will beat all right cheaply, and then we can analyze the match properly. We will, of course, be going live tomorrow at 12:55 p.m. for the India West Indies. India women's versus the Australian women's game. Check out the match preview as well and go check that out. Archit Aryaman, all I want is our batters to show some grit and fight in the second innings. For a long time, our batting has been doing poorly. Can't always hide behind a bowling, but a bit frustrating to see that. Well said, and it just makes you think when India will bat, if they will bat. You, of course, heard from Gurkirat and Nikhil. Thank you so much for your time. I've really tried to take everyone's question, and Nikhil and Gurkirat have been superb in answering those questions, and we love that. We absolutely love having an interactive show. That's all we have in this one. South Africa lead by 11, but only time will tell if they get a big enough lead to bat India out of this first test and consign us to yet another test defeat in 2023. But there's always light at the end of the tunnel, which we'll tell you about in cricket.com. Thanks for watching. It's goodbye from us. Cheers. Like this video, please, right now. Cheers.